Hello everyone, we're doing Thor this week. I'm Sol, with me are Calvin, son of Di.
By the might of Yorkshire, it's a pleasure to be here.
And Alan's son.
What?
Thomas.
Alan's son. I'm Johnson, actually.
Well, you've confused us all
Johnson?
by going by your surname.
My dad's name is John.
You're
John Allen.
Alan Johnson?
Yeah. Mr. Allen. Mr. Allen's son.
No, I'm John's son.
Thomas Johnson.
What?
You said your dad's name was Johnson.
No, my dad's name is John.
Right.
And so therefore I am Johnson.
Oh, okay.
By the, the Nordic naming ritual.
Is that where my name
Ritual,
came from? Am I Nordic? Is Dyson Nordic?
Well, you're the son of Di. You're probably Welsh.
Welsh?
Welsh Viking.
Oh,
yeah, Di.
It's not like he's called Thorson or Odinson.
He is
Yeah, he
repeatedly
is.
referred to as Odin's son in these films,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh, okay. But I took that as just a title rather than a name.
But that's how the Scandinavians get their names. That's why all Scandinavians are called Henriksson and Johnson and Samuelsson and things like that.
So Thor, that's
Yes.
a thing we're doing. Marvel, superheroes.
We really should have just done the whole thing in order, but we're here now, and
Well, there's a new Thor film coming out, so we're who we are.
yeah, but this is just this is why it's so confusing, all this cinematic universe nonsense. Because it's sort of like, is the third Thor film the third in the Thor series, or is it the 12th Marvel Cinematic Universe film? And
Both.
Don't even get me started. I'm so sick of it.
What's
all
wrong with
already.
well, it's
Oh, 'cause
confusing.
I don't know what order to put them in on my shelf.
I don't.
That is a valid reason, I think.
Yeah, I think so. It's like if I
Alphabetical. Sorted.
so we start with Captain America. Then we have
Avengers.
Oh, yes, we do. No, Ant-Man.
Now, you put them in chronological order, right? That's nice and simple.
Yeah.
And then you can see at a glance where it comes.
This is when it was nice and simple. Like, I had a similar feeling when we went back to the first Iron Man film, when we looked at that, going back to the first Thor film. It was like, oh, this is really easy to follow. There's minimum sort of jargon and things that I can't remember from other films that have happened. Just a nice, straightforward story. It's building up to something else, and that's fine. Just thought it was nice.
Well, I mean, I'm completely sick of this cinematic universe bullshit.
No, I think it's great.
And, well, I watched Thor when it came out at the cinema, I believe. I've never seen Thor 2 until I just watched them yesterday.
Right.
But I watched Thor again. And honestly, these two films, the second one more so, but these two films, just had no interest in me whatsoever. I was not engaged. I didn't care about anything that was happening. I wasn't interested. I wasn't entertained. I was just incredibly bored. The first one was at least passable. It was just a watchable film, but
Well,
and I don't like fantasy films. So it's like as soon as we're off Earth and it's like some orcs are fighting some elves, and it's like, well, I don't care about any of this.
Yeah, well, that's why I quite like the first one as well. It's like, I love all the sort of fish out of water. He's a Norse god in small town America. That's all quite nice. And then when you get into the second one and it's opening with dramatic Anthony Hopkins narration of on the planet of Mythocondriac.
that's literally how the first one opens as well.
Maybe I forgive it more because most of the action is on Earth.
Yeah,
Well, there's more action on Earth in the second one.
Do you think?
no.
No, I think they're in Isengard.
There's loads
Is
of
it Isengard? What is
Things
it?
flying around through portals into Greenwich, shooting up London.
Yeah, but they just sort of pop in every now and then.
Is it Isengard?
No, it's Asgard.
Asgard. Okay.
But even in the first one, when we're in Asgard, we're like in Asgard, and it's like, okay, it's like an old style monarchy with here's the king and the court and stuff like that. I can get on board with that. But then it's when it's like, oh look, we're over to that planet. It's like an alien with a northern accent speaking an alien language, like, and there's sort of interspace battles, and it's like, oh. And it's fair enough. People are into that. Whatever.
Space battles.
Yeah.
That sounds like science fiction to me, not fantasy.
Well, it sounds like Star Wars science fiction, which is fantasy. So we'll talk about that in a few weeks.
So, should we talk specifically about the first one then?
It's worth noting the context in which the first Thor came out, because I think it's very easy to forget.
Go on then. Give us it.
Well, Thor was the fourth film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yep.
After Iron Man, The Incredible Hulk, and Iron Man 2, and it was very much the film that really established what they were going to do, I think. Because Iron Man came out, it was a surprise hit, but it was a very conventional superhero film, really. It wasn't even a particularly unconventional blockbuster. It was very much what people were used to at the time.
And it achieved success through personality, really. Not just Robert Downey Jr., but very much that. But it just had it had a good feel to it. It had charm, it had charisma, and that's all you need.
And The Incredible Hulk came out, but a lot of people didn't watch it and weren't aware that it was connected. And I mean, it was a big blockbuster film, but it wasn't the tentpole that Marvel films are now. And I like it, but a lot of people weren't that keen on it. Then Iron Man 2 came out. Iron Man 2 came out, and it was very much just your standard Hollywood sequel, and we'll do an episode on it one day, so I won't go into my thoughts on it too much. But so Thor and Captain America, which was in production at the same time, were very much the start of Marvel really establishing what they were doing, because they were the first sort of superhero films that were willing to explore genre outside of just action, adventure, bit of sci-fi. And Thor was very much, we're going to make a fantasy superhero film. And Captain America was obviously, we're going to make a World War II period piece superhero film.
Yeah.
But Thor was the first time that really, I think, a company had tried something like this, certainly within a clear-cut superhero marketing, yeah.
What the hell is Kenneth Branagh directing this film for? What's that
I remember
about?
we had a lot of discussions about it around the time, about how curious it was, but I quite liked when these films would... It is weird. I can't think of anything...
It's not that weird.
But it did feel like at the time that Marvel were making these unconventional director choices.
They are more now than ever.
Okay.
Thor Ragnarok, not to get ahead of ourselves, the film we're doing this to tie into was directed by Taika Waititi, a man who's made, Flight of the Conchords predominantly. He makes little independent New Zealand films. This is really his first blockbuster.
And the director of the second Thor film was a guy with just a huge TV career behind him, like very high profile TV, but not a movie guy.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was actually going to be Patty Jenkins, who you may be aware of for having just directed Wonder Woman.
Yes.
And there were the usual creative differences and what have you. She left the project, and they had to get a last minute person in to replace, and they went for someone who's just done like Game of Thrones and stuff, because it was a cheap, safe bet, I suppose.
I did. Well, I mean, even then though, those options make sense to me. It's like someone who's done a load of little films who can be sort of easily controlled, and someone else who's done a lot of TV but maybe not that much blockbuster film. But Kenneth Branagh was a name, more as an actor probably than a director.
Yeah, but look at who else did Phase 1 Marvel films. Jon Favreau directed Iron Man.
Yeah.
Joe Johnston directed Captain America.
Yeah, exactly.
Joss Whedon did the Avengers.
Exactly. All high profile, like...
Jon Favreau was not a big blockbuster director.
Was he not?
He'd made Elf and Zathura, which were both sort of smallish
great films.
But they're not blockbuster. He hadn't proven himself in that playing field before Iron Man.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think Marvel kind of always have taken the approach of, let's get interesting up-and-coming directors. They'll be relatively cheap, but they'll also bring some vision that we want to the films.
Again, though, that's not Kenneth Branagh. He's not an upcoming, interesting... He's an interesting choice,
well, he
but
is
not for the same
insofar as
reason
you
that a lot
say
of the others are.
he he hasn't made a huge blockbuster before. So it's kind of, you've proven you can make the Shakespearean drama, but can you make something a bit bigger? Well, here's your chance. And obviously, there's a flavour, there's a clear flavour with most of these directors that they're trying to inject. Joe Johnston, that sort of gung-ho Americana, that's exactly what you want in Captain America.
Jon Favreau, background in comedy, you wanted that light touch on Iron Man.
Exactly. James Gunn makes fucked up, weird films, so it's sort of like, give him the one with the talking tree, that makes sense.
And here I guess they're talking all like oldie language, a lot of it. And,
exactly. They all talk like a bloody Shakespeare play.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say I really see his influence greatly. It seems, I don't know.
It feels very like just a studio film for the most part, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Other than all the Dutch angles.
I wanted more comedy in it.
Oh yes.
Yeah. See,
Marvel does have a bit of tongue-in-cheek nature about it in general, and it definitely needed it with this because there's so many silly. Like it's just a man in a silly cape with a bloody hammer. There's an innate silliness to it.
Yes.
I think you just need to sort of
And they
puncture that
acknowledge
by.
that.
Yeah, they do. I just felt like it wanted a little bit more, I think. Maybe.
Would you have preferred a full-blown comedy? I mean, I would have.
I completely, I think this film, it's sad that it wasn't a full-blown comedy. But I think even Marvel acknowledged that. This, like I say, this was a somewhat daring film for them, really. They were treading the water a bit, seeing how much they could get away with. Nowadays, we've had Guardians of the Galaxy. They know they can just make a full-blown comedy. That's why Thor Ragnarok appears to be pretty much that, from what I can gather.
Yeah. But you remember when I said we were talking about Guardians of the Galaxy, and I said I'm worried that they're just going to make all the superhero films like this now, with this sort of like retro, tongue-in-cheek, we're all in on the joke kind of attitude.
Yeah,
and they're definitely going down that road.
Yeah.
I don't know if they are.
Oh, they so are. Have you not seen the trailer for Ragnarok?
Yeah, it's brilliant. But just because Thor's doing it, like you just said, Thor kind of needs that approach to work.
Mm-hmm. We'll see.
So just because they're doing that with Thor and Guardians of the Galaxy and the cosmic side of things doesn't mean they're doing it with all of them. So Natalie Portman's an odd choice, right?
Oh, what is Natalie Portman doing in this?
Oh,
she
leave
looks so out of place. She doesn't want to be there.
No, but that's the thing. It's odd because she so clearly doesn't want to do it. So why is she doing it? She doesn't need to. She could probably have been a superhero herself if she wanted.
I think that's what's sad, to be honest, because like she could lead one of these films as a hero, whether it be Wonder Woman or something like that. And now she's not coming back for the third one, as far as I understand. But she has said, well, maybe they'll want me for Avengers 7 somewhere down the line, and I'll just do that.
She didn't want to do the second one.
Oh. She didn't want to do the first one, judging by the way she acted in it.
But I mean, they actively had to invoke her contractual obligation to return. She did an interview before the second one saying, I'm contracted to do more, but I don't think I'll bother. I don't think they want, I don't think they'll need me. And then she's in the second one and it's like,
right. She was really not happy about being in the Star Wars prequels either. Why did she do this?
Well, Star Wars, that was one of her first things starting out, fair enough.
Yeah, I guess so.
But I don't know why she did Thor, because
I guess
like
it's
I say,
money?
it's not like she doesn't need the money. She could have.
How can you speak for her financial?
Yeah, it's not like she's headlining a list of films all the time. She's
not been out buying stolen fossils like Nicolas Cage. That she's. I think she's probably. I mean, I don't know.
Who knows? You sign on, you think, Kenneth Branagh's doing it, we'll be all right.
Branagh,
and then Kenneth Branagh, darling. That's how you pronounce it in the world of theatre. So he's directing. Maybe you think, this might actually be legitimate. This Marvel thing's looking quite big now. I'll do it, and then you're actually doing it, and you go, this is a load of shite, isn't it?
But again, Thor was early days Marvel.
Yeah,
it wasn't quite the powerhouse. It was pre-Avengers, It wasn't quite the institution it is now. I don't know what she's doing in the films, and I'm just sad every time she's on screen. To be honest.
Oh no, I like her bits. I like her and Kat Dennings and Stellan Skarsgård. fumbling around with science stuff and whatever.
Kat Dennings is another weird one.
She is.
They brought her in for a little. She's essentially the comic relief, isn't she?
Oh yeah.
I think if you're going to put that character in, give her a bit more, because you've got your Natalie Portman, you've got Stellan Skarsgård, who's the other like, I'm the big sciencey guy. We're working on this, and then have the kind of like, oh, I'm just the kid here driving the van. Oh dear, I'm not even paid. I'm an intern. But like, make that more of it.
Yeah,
give him something to do. And she did what she could, but they're just
And I think, I mean, again, I don't really know what she's doing. I think she's good generally. I don't think what she's doing is bad, but it feels like she's doing three-wall sitcom acting.
Yeah.
And that's not what this project is.
Yeah.
And the directors should have directed her a bit better, to be honest, because it doesn't quite gel with everything else in the film. Anyway, I like Stellan Skarsgård.
He's good. He's great.
I think he feels more in line with what they're going for than the rest of the science crew.
Yeah.
I do have a question about that character, though. What the hell's going on with him in the second film?
I don't know.
Am I supposed to understand what's going on? Because I don't.
What are you talking about? That's following on from the Avengers, where he was possessed by Loki.
Ah, it was in another film.
Yeah.
Ah, okay, that's why I didn't know that.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly what happened.
Well, he was possessed by Loki in the Avengers, but then that doesn't really answer what he's doing. And
well, he's just had his brain fucked up with. I mean, what would you be like if a Norse god possessed you?
Exactly like this.
So just to be clear then, when I was watching Thor 2, the reason I didn't understand the character development was because there was a completely different film that I hadn't seen.
No, I don't think that's true.
Fucking shitty cinematic universe.
Otherwise, how the hell would you explain that?
It's a messy film with a lot of problems.
Well, I mean, that
weird
aside,
attempts at humour that don't really work.
No. He's had his brain screwed with, and that's why he's all running around naked at Stonehenge.
I didn't like that particularly. I liked him in the first film.
No, I agree. I felt like, well, to be honest, he just felt completely unnecessary and like didn't need to be there in the second one.
So there's Rene Russo as Frigga, who is Odin's wife, who
she doesn't do much, does she?
Well, she barely cameos in the first one, and then all of a sudden in the second one, she's like, they're having a few early scenes specifically with her, and I'm like, okay, well, she's definitely dead then, because they didn't spend any time on her in the first one, so, and then all of a sudden she's got all this emotional weight in the second film. We're supposed to feel really bad that she dies. Okay. I understand she had a lot of scenes cut.
It's nice for Rene Russo getting some work there.
And then, of course, we have our two stars, really, not stars, but the leads, other than Natalie Portman.
Yeah.
Not even leads, I'm leaving one to the last for obvious reasons. We have Chris Hemsworth as Thor.
Yes.
So, he's good, isn't he?
Very lovely, yes. Very nice. Yeah.
Relatively unknown at the time, like he was an up-and-comer. They threw him in there.
This was his breakout
as the
performance, really.
And now the Hemsworths are everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does a good job, and he's got charisma with it. That's what he needed.
I mean, he's great.
Good anyway.
He's really he's got a lot of charisma, and he has to do these stupid lines, but
and he's so good at just selling that earnest nonsense and having the right level of tongue-in-cheek about it to get away with it. And he's very good. And you don't get the impression that he's like the greatest actor in the world, but he really doesn't need to be. This is a performance that just gets by on charisma, I think, more than anything, and that's fine. That's all you get from him.
I will say though, there's a couple of moments where he needs to do some proper emoting, and he gets the job done.
He's
I think I wouldn't be afraid to watch him in something with a bit more weight. I'm sure he could handle it.
I could believe he could. And then, of course, we have he's sort of became the lead character almost of these films. The one that people were going to see them for. Tom Hiddleston as Loki, the villain of the first one, but antagonist, anti-hero, semi-villain of later films.
This is a note I made about these films, actually. It's something I liked about them, which is that they are sort of embracing a moral grey area in terms of the bad guy and having them closely emotionally linked with the protagonist and having that complicated relationship. And so he's not quite a bad guy. We kind of understand his motivations. And then they have, aside to that, the bad guys, which are the Frost Men in the first one, and then Christopher Eccleston in the next one, so that you've got someone who is just evil and we can kill them. But then they've got this other antagonist, because of their complex relationship and their brothers. It's an interesting dynamic, and it gives us something to work with. I like that. I like what they did with it, that they embraced that. So
yeah. And I think, again, the performance from Hiddleston's brilliant. He really gets that role, hams it up just perfectly.
I mean, I'm really liking the look of Cate Blanchett in the third one. I'm assuming she's the villain.
Yeah. Well, she looks like it, yeah.
Yeah. She looks like she's going to have fun with it. But I thought she was one of the few redeeming things of Indiana Jones 4. So
when I watched the trailer for that and Cate Blanchett in that, that was Power Rangers. That is
yes, it is.
Well, do you know who she's playing?
Rita Repulsa.
Oh, you remembered?
Do you know, it took me 3 seconds, that gap there, when I was trying to figure out what her name was. Not quite that sharp.
This should prove the point about how they had to take baby steps to get to the point that they're willing to do this. But my understanding is her character is essentially the literal personification of death. And I think she has a proper name other than that. But I think she is essentially the Grim Reaper of the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Like a god of death.
And kind of. I think so. Because in the comics, Thanos, the big bad they're setting up.
Josh Brolin.
In the comics, he was obsessed with death, like quite literally, and basically had fallen in love with death, literal personification of death, and so was hell-bent on just murdering people, and at one point literally kills half of the universe with some MacGuffin to impress her and just say, look, I'm really into you, look how many people I'm killing. So it seems
where she's like, I've got to do all the paperwork for all this. It's not what I wanted.
So how do we feel about Tom Hiddleston then? Loki.
He's great.
Yeah, the character. Yeah, great character. I much prefer him in the second one, where he does do the Hannibal Lecter thing, as you said, Sol, and goes.
Yeah, he goes lighter in the second one. He's a bit more jokey with it.
In the first one, it felt like they hadn't quite established. It's season 1 Homer Simpson, isn't it? Asking everyone to go out for chocolate frosty milkshakes, and then the Avengers was like season 4, season 3, when they kind of figured out what they were doing with him. And
but I think these films are very reactive as well to audiences. Like, I mean, I don't think anyone in the audience is really disappointed that Natalie Portman's character wouldn't come back. But if Loki didn't come back, he obviously went down very well. And
I'm a bit sad that they've just dropped her, just because it's the same thing that they had with the Transformers movies when they just got rid of Megan Fox. It just feels a bit frustrating and disingenuous if you spend 2 movies bigging up this grand romance and then you're just like, fuck it. And I know that's arguably
I want to talk about that. But that is another one of my big issues with these films, that if you're going to make a love story and make the whole story hang on it, like make big character choices hang on that love story, then at least convince me that there's an emotional connection there. At least spend some time building an emotional connection. And they do not do that in either of these films. And then we have to believe that this guy is going to give up the throne and his entire life to go and meet his girlfriend, who he's known for about 25 minutes. It doesn't make it, and I just don't buy into it on an emotional level.
I think overall it's a solid film. The first one, it's good.
I agree.
Fun.
Yeah,
it's very light, and it kind of feels like it doesn't quite fulfill its potential in a lot of ways. But I think it's very enjoyable. Yes. It really felt to me, actually, rewatching it again last night, it really felt like a throwback to stuff that was made in the 80s that you don't really get anymore. Stuff like Splash and Big.
Yeah.
It was really just light, fun. Well, fish out of water comedies, but
quite literally in the case of Splash.
Yeah.
What do we think about Thor: The Dark World then? The sequel.
Yeah, so this was far more into what Marvel is as an entity now, but still, this was the first post-Avengers film. So the Avengers was the big culmination of everything Marvel had been working to at that point, and they'd pulled it off, and people were really happy and excited to see where they went next. Oh, sorry, no, it's not the first one, is it? Iron Man 3 was the first post-Avengers film.
Oh, yeah, it was.
But this was the second one.
I was just going to take your word on it regardless of research.
Oh, no, I completely blanked it. But it was one of the first films sort of laying out that, basically proving to audiences that there was still life in the concept, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, I don't dislike this film, but I think it's bottom tier Marvel, really.
Oh, okay.
It's one of their weakest efforts to date, I think.
I agree. I watched this film today for the first time, and I just did not engage with it in any way. I wasn't interested in anything that happened. It just did not pull me in at all.
It's one of those films where, when I'm watching it, every individual scene is fine. There's sort of nice set design and acting and things in it. There's lots of good stuff there, but I just kind of switch off because it's just a bit long and, like you say, just unengaging. And it just doesn't quite... Like, I can sit there watching them throwing bottles through portals and things like that, but I'm not watching that going, oh my god, amazing, I can't wait to see where this is going. It's just sort of like, alright, then what? Yeah.
I think there's a bit too much sort of set on the Asgard, yes.
Yeah.
There's a bit too much going on there to the point that you just feel like you're watching an animation, really. It's in all the battle sequences, it just feels like there's no... And that's not a dig at animation, but if you're going to invest me in real people and then they just look like Tomb Raider flying around on a spaceship or whatever, then
There's only two women in Asgard, right? His mother and then the lady warrior.
Yeah, I guess so. That really annoyed me, actually. Whenever they went to a different planet and the name of the planet would come up along the bottom, and it was like... There are no...
Spakanakanical.
It was like, there are no vowels in this word. What is it?
It's like Wales. It's just a town in Wales.
But I like that they went to the effort of telling the audience. Like, I'm assuming there's people somewhere in a cinema that are getting really like, oh, they're on the planet.
Maybe. I mean, the thing is, like, I really like the high fantasy nonsense in the first film. I like that it's there and it's played so earnestly, because it is this cheesy nonsense, but then that's offset with reality, and it kind of needs to be played earnestly for the story on Earth to work as a counterpoint to it.
Yeah.
And I like that there's an element of, fuck it, let's just be sincere about what we're doing. But in the second one, it really just falls into boring fantasy appendices of notes on the history of the... And I don't know if... I don't think it's quite as thought out as that. I just don't care about all the different battles and planets and races. And so what is the second one? Christopher Eccleston plays an unrecognisable elf.
Well, I recognise his voice.
I didn't know it was him on my first watching. It was only when I looked at the cast afterwards I was like, oh, okay. But I really don't like any of the villains in this one, and I think a large part of it is because of the character design. They all look like minions as opposed to like a big bad main guy.
You don't mean
if they did it as minions,
Kevin, Bob, and Stuart.
Oh no, I didn't mean like actual minions. I meant like underlings. I didn't really like the villains. They're all after this smoke or something. What's it doing? It gets on Natalie Portman at one point, and then like she stops rain or something. I don't know.
If you touch her, you die or something. I don't know.
Yeah. That policeman touches her, and then
it blows the explosion.
Yeah,
I like that. Well, I don't know why they were in Britain. I don't know if that was explained at any point, but I didn't. Whatever. I did like the kind of realistic representation of the British police where he had like a truncheon like going against Thor and going, you get back now, come on. I quite like that.
Yeah, I did enjoy that. I love how they don't even seem, because this is after the Avengers, so presumably they all know who this guy is because the Avengers are celebrities in this world now, but the policemen just seem to be like, all right, man with cape, come on.
Well,
come along
yeah,
now.
I think this is I think Marvel have really, they've, landed nicely into the groove now. They know how to handle that sort of thing and the sort of continuity with that kind of thing a lot more now. But this being one of the very first films, I think was in production, pre-production, whilst the Avengers was coming out and stuff. And I think did have a bit of a troubled time behind the scenes from what I can gather. I know Joss Whedon had to come in and do a pass over the script, which is amazing to think, because it's not like it's a very witty script, really.
Well, speaking of that bigger world, there is one point. He comes back down, it's been 2 years, and she's like, where the fuck have you been for 2 years? You said you were coming right back. I thought we were in love. And he goes like, love, I'm sorry, I smashed up the Rainbow Bridge, couldn't get back. I had to fight some Rainbow Road. I had to fight some wars and shit. And then she was like, okay, fair enough. But then she's like, actually, I saw you on TV smashing up New York, which I presume is a reference to Avengers.
Yeah.
Why didn't you finish that? Pop over, have a word, and they just sort of shove that under the carpet. Whereas, if he could get back, I thought the point was he couldn't get back, but obviously he could because he did it in the Avengers. He did it right there and then, as soon as Idris Elba.
It really
goes,
annoyed me that actually. That's one of the biggest complaints I have with these films. Just is that they smash up that bridge at the end of the first film. Didn't really need to happen. They didn't need to do that. And it was obvious, right, well, now they're going to have to spend 20 minutes in the Avengers dealing with this. Then in the Avengers, Joss Whedon made the very smart decision to be like, nah, fuck it. His father uses magic and wishes him to Earth. We don't need to deal with that shit. We're just going to deal with our own thing here.
Yeah.
But then the ramifications of that on the next Thor movie are that, like you say, well, now you've got a massive issue with continuity.
Yeah.
Even if you just wrote it in that he'd went to see her and said, look, I'm sorry, I'm dealing with a kind of intergalactic war thing. I'm kind of the heir to the throne. I've got a lot of shit going on right now, and I can't spend time with you. I need to go off and do this. And she has to kind of reluctantly accept that. That's fine. And then 2 years later, he's back and he's like, do you know what? Let's get it on now. Things are chilling out a bit. Oh, wait a minute. Something's kicking off. We have to do this. Oh, you're possessed by smoke.
Oh, Alan. I was thinking about you a lot when I was watching these. Just think, Alan must be hating this.
I just kind of phased out. I just didn't engage.
You know what annoys me? Ever since, and I know that they're aware of this issue and that they try to sort of work around it, but the fact that they have to sort of, that Thor can't just be like, oh, you know what? I've got Iron Man's number. Let me call him. He'll be over here soon, and he'll sort of help us out. And oh, there's Hulk. Yeah, no, he can come along as well. It's like,
but if they were to do that, you'd both be whining about it, saying, "Oh, for God's sake, they're bringing in that one now, are they?" And they do that a bit anyway. That's what they're doing in Thor 3, Thor and Hulk.
And I'm fine with it. It's I don't.
Well, I think that's what they ought to be doing. I think that's their shtick. Stick them all together. Give us different flavour combos.
Okay, here's another another thing. This is something that crops up in films quite a lot, and I never quite get it. I never quite understand it, and it's the find out you're adopted and go a bit mental storyline. And now I'll grant you, in this film, it's a bit more justified because he kind of finds out that he's essentially their arch enemy.
I think it's a bit more justified as well because they are drawing upon real old school Norse legend, Old English legend, which is very much that sort of
the line, the blood of your father, and all that sort of thing. Yeah. And he's the heir to the throne, or he's not the heir to the throne. But yeah, so I go within this. But in the second one, particularly, it bothered me because the way it was being played, it was like a 15-year-old who just found out that he was adopted, and it was just all came across as a bit childish, a bit petty. where it needed to be
Loki
played
is.
deeper, I think. Yeah, but the guy's 32 years old or whatever, so it's like it doesn't work. It just seems childish, and it needed more depth to it, I think.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
And it could have justified having more depth there, and it sort of hints at it. You know, he has this moment with his mother, but it just seems as like it comes across as him just being a sort of a knobhead 14-year-old, like going, "Oh, I didn't ask to be born. You're not my real mum anyway." That sort of thing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think it's because of just the story that's around it that feels that they're going for this whole epic feel, and to get bogged down in such a thing is. And I get that they need to put in some kind of emotional story, but I don't love it. No.
So, broad thoughts on the second one, guys?
I like that it's set in London. And I like the assault on Asgard when Christopher Eccleston and Adewale Akinoye Ajabaji. I like it when Christopher Eccleston and him like go and.
I mean, I'm no expert on like Nigerian names, but I'm pretty sure you didn't nail that one.
Oh, what? Oh.
But a lot of the action in this second one is just people hitting like swords against swords, and boring.
Well, I don't know. Like I always have a soft spot for. We've all often talked about personal boxes being ticked, and for some reason, I do like it when a hero's established base is subject to an unexpected assault. It's a very niche box. But,
An unexpected assault, or one they have time to
unexpected.
Home Alone. So you don't like the last Harry Potter film because they were anticipating it?
Yes, actually, yeah, that's accurate.
Okay.
My favourite episodes of Power Rangers are always the one when the command centre was under attack. Ooh. Ivan Ooze has come in and he's zapping things. I don't know. What are your broad thoughts on this one, Alan?
Shit.
Better than the first?
No.
Oh.
It's interesting because I'm pretty sure I remember having a chat with you in about 2013, Calvin, and you said you'd been to see Thor: The Dark World and you really enjoyed it, and you were saying how much you loved it and how you normally don't like Marvel films, but this one really did it for you.
Yeah, I did say that then. And then I watched it. I'd only watched it again today, and I was spending most of it thinking, why did I think that? I don't know. It's probably like Alan with what was that film that he loved?
Suicide Squad.
Suicide Squad. Yeah, I
didn't love it. I thought it was all right, and then I realised it.
Yeah. I didn't love Thor: The Dark World, but I thought it was fine, and I think everyone was hating on it, and I was like, it's fine, whatever. And then watching it again, it's like I don't hate it, but it's not Saw 4, but it's
what it's really lacking in is
Saw 5. Sorry,
the witty little one-liners. Because I think there was an anticipation there was going to be more of that. Because you've got Loki in it. It's post-Avengers. Joss Whedon's done a bit of script polishing.
Yeah.
And yet the dialogue, at one point, Thor shouts, "I'll see you in hell, monster," and smacks a thing with a hammer. And there's no joke there. And we've been primed to expect a joke. And I bet you in Thor Ragnarok there'll be a joke. I bet you will say, "It's hammer time."
How has he never said that? Oh my god. It's so obvious. If that's not in the new film, I'll eat my hat.
So yeah, the new one.
Thor Ragnarok. Oh, do you guys know what Ragnarok is?
It's Norse apocalypse, isn't it?
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I watched the trailer. That's all I know.
I can't wait.
I'm looking forward to it.
I think I'll hate it.
I think it looks like Marvel at its best. Which probably equates to Marvel at its worst for someone like Alan. The whole film's meant to be very retro throwback somehow, and I don't really know why, or...
I guess because Guardians of the Galaxy, but...
Yeah.
Maybe? I don't really know, but I'm willing to wait till I've seen the film to see if they justify it.
If they're doing that in a Guardians of the Galaxy style, I guarantee at some point he listens to MC Hammer. I guarantee it.
I don't know if he will. I think Taika Waititi's very Taika Waititi. Sorry, I think he's very self-aware that might be a bit hacky. So I don't know.
I don't know about that.
Have you seen the short film he made about what Thor's been doing in the meantime?
No.
Breaking up with Natalie Portman?
He made a little Marvel one-shot. I think they screened it at Comic-Con a few years ago, and it was just what Thor's been up to since the Avengers 2.
With Chris Hemsworth?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Why he wasn't in Captain America Civil War. And it's just a mockumentary. It's just him talking to camera going, oh yeah, I got myself this apartment here. Here's my roommate. And there's just like this normal office worker guy who's like, hey. And it's really odd. I think it was them kind of establishing a tone for the film, but it's a full-blown comedy. It's a mockumentary with just Thor going to the bank and things like that.
All right, I'm gonna have to go into my pitch, right? Because we've pretty much nailed every element of it already. Just the discussion of it.
Oh wow! Oh, okay.
And that is because basically my pitch is forget all the Asgard stuff. Thor has to live on Earth in a kind of fish out of water, Crocodile Dundee, suburban commando kind of way, and it's just Thor dealing with everyday stuff. Which it sounds like that's what they were doing in that.
Yeah, basically.
So that is my pitch, and I've even, I've addressed the fact that Natalie Portman's not in it. She's refused to come back.
They don't do that, I don't think.
So,
although they might mention a breakup, I'm not sure. He's moved to Australia or something.
They must do. They must acknowledge it. I mean, they brought her up in the second Avengers film when she wasn't there. If you remember that, they have a bit where it's like a character's just like, "Hey, where's Natalie Portman?" And Thor's like, "Oh, she's giving a National Peace Day conference or something."
Okay, well, I've put he's gone to live on Earth with her, but she's fucked off, and I've put that she's gone to do an expedition in the Antarctic or something. But then they just introduce another love interest that we're supposed to completely accept with no questions asked, like Transformers 3 or whichever one it was.
Yeah.
And then I thought that the film itself is just a badly assembled series of sketches with not quite enough plot to validate it. Most of them focusing on, Thor trying to fit into a society. The only thing I definitely thought has to happen, somebody who's dressed like Michael Jackson in Thriller tries to mug him with a hammer, and he goes, "That's not a hammer. This is a hammer."
Oh, right. And it's actually a spoon.
But, so, okay, what about if Thor, he doesn't really understand the concept of telephones, and so he loses his job as a secretary for the Ghostbusters because he doesn't know.
Oh, right.
It's the same actor, you see.
Yes, I didn't see the film.
You haven't seen Ghostbusters?
No.
Mm-mm.
No one did.
I saw it. It was not that good.
He was good in it, actually.
So what about if because he can't get a decent job because he's too weird. So he starts trying to earn a living as a Thor impersonator. There's people who just walk around the streets in fancy dress and expect you to pay to have a picture taken with them.
Yeah.
But then, maybe he gets run off the patch by some other Thor impersonators who could be played by Luke Hemsworth and Liam Hemsworth.
I love it.
And then, he gets a job as a model, becomes an actor, and goes for an audition for the role of Thor in the Hollywood reimagining of the real-life events of the Avengers. I'm not trying to figure out how meta I can go with this.
I mean, I'm waiting for that to happen in one of the films. They will go there, I'm sure, at some point.
I haven't really got a proper plot because I just couldn't be bothered.
I've got a proper plot.
All right, go on then.
My pitch begins with Thor. We're going to carry on directly from the second film, and Thor is now living a civilian life in London with Natalie Portman, Stellan Skarsgård, and Kat Dennings. It's clear that not much time has passed since the events of the Dark World, and Thor is preparing dinner for his friends, and it's clear that there's something on his mind. He's building up the courage to tell them something, but keeps chickening out at the last minute, and they're aware of this, so they're trying to coax out of him. And eventually the trio corner him and get him to say what's on his mind. But just as he's about to reveal it, there's a blinding flash of light in the middle of the dining room, and there stands a large, strong, beautiful, blonde-haired lady. "Thor!" she cries. And the god explains to the humans that this is his wife, Sif. This is real Norse god stuff.
Oh, okay.
I thought you were doing about how they rebooted the Thor comics with a female Thor recently.
No. In actual Norse mythology, Thor had a wife called Sif. So, she comes back.
Fair enough.
She comes to Earth, and it turns out that the pair of them were married hundreds of years ago, but the wife ran off with Benicio del Toro.
Could we have Thor's mother-in-law character? Who's
yes,
played by Julie Andrews.
Oh yes, perfect. I think that'd work really nicely. And she'll wear a cream pantsuit like she does in every film she's been in the past 20 years. Anyway, turns out that Sif and Thor were married hundreds of years ago, but she ran off with Benicio del Toro. But now he's run off with a...
Is this still part of Norse mythology? Is Benicio del Toro a Norse god?
No. Benicio del Toro is in the... what's his character's name?
The Collector.
It's a good name, isn't it?
So she ran off with the Collector, but now he's run off with Howard the Duck. So she's come back to
that
Thor.
Sneaky duck. He's always trying to shag women. That's what he does.
So now she's back, and she wants to get back with Thor, and she wants him to forgive her, but he just wants a divorce. So it's a comedy, if you didn't guess already. So most of the film is sort of Thor trying to get a divorce from his wife, and she's like, "No, marry me again. Oh no, keep married to me. That's the one." But anyway, in real life, there is speculation that Sif was the goddess of fertility, which means we're going to have plenty of fun scenes where she gets really horny and needs to have sex right there and then, or she'll cause some kind of explosion. And Thor has to basically find someone else to sleep with her, or Natalie Portman will be upset. So
is Natalie Portman in it?
Yes.
Oh,
She said she didn't want to do anymore, but she's going to read this script and she's going to be like, "Yep, right. This is the kind of film I need to be making right now." So we're going to get Loki involved as well, as he's snooping around. And now this is based on a real legend that comes from Sif.
Wait, Sif is the wife?
Yes.
Because Sif is the character, the female warrior character in Thor.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, she's called Sif.
Oh, crap. I wonder if she's based on that.
Because I definitely picked up on the fact... Well, I didn't know it was that legend that it was a wife or anything. But there's a couple of moments between them where I was thinking, is this going to turn into a thing where she's, going to get jealous because she wants Thor? There's just a few little looks that I thought they were leading to something, there's going to be a love interest there. But then it sort of got derailed by him with Natalie Portman.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It is Sif.
But that's interesting. I mean, they might have just taken that as a female warrior name, but they might have been thinking, we could use this in the future. They get married or whatever.
Yeah, maybe. Or maybe Natalie Portman, should have known. If she'd have known her Norse mythology.
Stellan Skarsgård should have told her.
Yes. Anyway, so Loki gets involved around this point in my pitch because he's snooping around and trying to cause trouble.
Loki.
Thor and Sif actually come to an agreement that yes, she's going to grant him a divorce and it's all going to be fine. And Loki spies this and misinterprets it as, they're getting back together. So one night, Loki sneaks into Sif's bedroom and cuts her hair off and puts the scissors in Thor's hand. Who is asleep on the sofa, and Sif comes in the morning and she's really pissed off, and she says that unless Thor can replace her hair, she won't grant him the divorce. So that sends Thor...
Is this a Norse legend? Because it sounds like the sort of shite that old school religion has.
Yes, it is. Okay. So this sends Thor off an adventure to find these dwarves who can spin gold as fine as hair and imbue it with magic that will make Sif's beautiful blonde hair grow back. So we can have some action sequences here because the dwarves are going to be bad and I don't know, we can get David Tennant to play one of them. And
Oh. Well, what's wrong with Peter Dinklage all of a sudden?
Oh, no. Oh, sorry, I was going down the Doctor Who route. But yeah, Peter Dinklage, Vern Troyer.
Warwick Davis is available.
Warwick Davis, yes.
His agent's on the phone.
So we have a lot of action sequences here, and Thor restores Sif's hair, and she forgives him. Because while he was away getting the hair, she started a relationship with Stellan Skarsgård. So everyone lives happily ever after. And there's a big double wedding at the end. Yes. What about you, Sol? What would you do with it?
Well, I would have been pitching a Planet Hulk adaptation with Thor and Bruce Banner kind of doing a buddy cop movie, because I've been saying they should do that for ages. But that appears to be exactly what they are doing with Thor Ragnarok.
Oh, right.
So
Yeah.
I've had to come up with something else. That's something I should mention. They seem to be borrowing heavily from the Planet Hulk comics, which basically is this whole thing where Hulk got ejected off into space, banished into space, because he was too dangerous to have on Earth, and he was really pissed off, and he ended up going around like these different planets and becoming a gladiator, because these planets had a kind of old school Roman vibe about them, and pitted species of different aliens against each other in combat. And
do you know what? I really hate comic books. It's just such a load of old shite, isn't it?
what's wrong with that?
It does seem like that's what they're doing.
If he was battling with depression and the death of his son, you'd be all over it.
Yeah. That'd be interesting.
So, I'm going to do something with Beta Ray Bill instead.
Who?
You're going to have to give us a bit of background there.
So, I mean, he's a character who may very well...
He's a character, that Beta Ray. Sorry, go on.
He's a character who may very well end up having a cameo in Thor Ragnarok, to be honest. It wouldn't surprise me. Or, like, turning up in Guardians of the Galaxy 3 or something. So, this film will start with his origin story, explaining what he is. So, this is kind of like the cold open here, before you get to Thor. You have Bill's race, the Corbynites. No, they're not radical left-wing communists. Calm down. The Corbynites saw their galaxy exploded, and the survivors fled in a fleet of warships led by a sentient ship called Scuttlebutt.
Scuttlebutt.
And they run across Thor, and the ship attacks him because they recognise the Asgardian magic to be... The ship reads it to be the same as the threat they were running away from for some reason. So it's a mistaken identity case, and they think that Thor's there to finish them off, and one thing leads to another, but it turns out that this guy, Bill, who's like a weird horse-looking thing, just for the record, he's able to lift Mjolnir, am I saying that right? The hammer?
Yeah.
So Odin proposes a battle to the death in Skartheim, the Asgardian realm, and they both knock each other out, rendering each other unconscious, and Bill's resistance to heat allows him to recover before Thor, so he wins. But then he saves Thor from falling into some lava, and they become mates. So that's what we're going to have in this film. There's also a story arc called Blood and Thunder, where Thor is basically driven insane and goes crazy and becomes a massive threat to the universe. So a group of Thors from different realities, because they have all the different universes and the multiverse thing going on in the comics, that are known as Thor Corp, band together to stop him. I want to smash these two comic stories together, basically. We intercut it with a sort of unchronological approach to it. But basically, we set up a third act where Beta Ray Bill has to lead the team of different universe Thors into battle against our Thor, who's gone evil, gone mad. But I think that's some nice elements there. You've got your cosmic stuff. And I like the idea of a team of Thors. You can actually have them played by Liam Hemsworth and who the other one is.
Yes.
So, Marvel doing their stuff. It's good, isn't it? I like it. I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
Okay, so that's Thor. Next week, we're back on the horror tip with Halloween Spooktacular.
Yes, the Blair Witch Project.
I'm so scared. Is that a quote? She does that, doesn't she? Something like that.
I think so.
Calvin, why are you stood staring at the corner?
Oh my
It's
god.
not that interesting. Oh god, this is weak.
Yeah.
Wow. A rare moment of clarity from Sala.